All right, so welcome. It is August the 20th, 2024, 10:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on August the 28th, over on Main Event Pay-Per-View, over in Australia in the Oceanic Territories, for $69.95, as you can see here on the screen, you're going to have Tszyu, Nikita Tszyu, the younger brother of Tszyu, taking on Koen. Doggone it, Big J, I forgot to pronounce his name again.
Mazoudier.
There you go. Mazoudier. All right, there you go. On pay-per-view. Now, here in the States, we don't have any broadcast details. Highly doubt it'll be broadcast over here in the States. But, you know, for those in the know, you'll be able to figure out how to watch it. So the reason why I'm adding Tszyu to the, I guess you could say, the rotation of videos, even though
Nikita,
Nikita Tszyu, let me make sure I don't make that mistake. The reason why I'm adding him to the rotation is, well, if he is to win next Wednesday on August the 28th, he'll be ranked by the IBF and the WBO. So basically, he's cracking the top 15, and he's on his way to a title shot. So let's talk about Nikita real quick. Just get the stats. He is 9-0 with 7 KOs, 26 years old. Last fight was in April against Danilo Creedy, who fought most notably Mick, who was going to talk about a little bit later on in the video. Dylan Briggs, Jack Brubaker, Benjamin Bomber, Jeff Horn's brother. So he's moving up. Now tell me, Big J, well, actually, let's start here. Let's start with the undercard first. So what are the fights that we should be looking out for? Now, I know Mick Zerefa versus Tommy Brown. For those who don't know, Mick Zerefa got sparked out by Erislandy Lara in his last fight. Erislandy Lara is returning next month on the undercard of Canelo versus Edgar Berlanga against Danny Garcia. So Mick Zerefa is also back as well. Their first fight's back. Everybody else in the card, for the most part, I got to be honest, I don't know too much about. So let's talk about the undercard, Big J. Who should we look out for? Oh, I do know Jasmine Parr.
Jasmine Parr, as people are unaware of, that's John Wayne Parr's girl. So the very famous kickboxer. She's fighting Ambula Amelia, so she's obviously taking the next step up in her career to keep going.
Okay.
Very talented young fighter. I think she has potential to maybe snap up a world title at some point. The fight of the night, for my personal opinion, will be Koen Wallace versus Jerome Papaloni, an IBF eliminator. The winner of this fight will be mandatory for the Bivol PPV winner. They'll be the IBF mandatory for whoever wins that fight in October. But to be honest, it doesn't matter who wins because both guys would be cat and fodder for either of those champs. I think Bivol will beat Benavidez because I think Benavidez is too old and too injured.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once either of these boys step up to Bivol, he'll just beat the piss out of either of them.
Yeah, by the way, the winner of Wallace and Pampaloni is supposed to fight a Michael Eifert to be the mandatory. So this is not a final eliminator. It is eliminated. It is an eliminator to be the number 2 ranked correct by the IBF, and they'll be one fight away from a title shot. So I guess you can say somewhat this is the most meaningful fight on the card in a way, since it leads to a title shot.
Absolutely, and I think it's going to be the fight of the night. Personally, I mean, Koen Wallace is a fantastic talent at light heavyweight. Jerome Papaloni, another interesting fighter. So 50-50 fight. I think it's going to be the fight of the night, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm really looking forward to that one.
And also, Pampaloni only lost to Malik Zanad, majority decision, and Zanad was a late replacement for Artur Beterbiev when Artur Beterbiev got injured a few months ago for that fight he's supposed to have with Dimitri Bivol, and Zanad put on actually a pretty good performance for a late replacement, because I remember I covered the fight. So Pampaloni, some may say going into the fight, from what I'm seeing, has more experience just off of that one fight alone. I mean, I'm looking here. I mean, you know, what do you know? I mean, is Conor Wallace a pressure fighter, a power puncher? I got people to go watch some tape.
He is. He's a Mick Francis Tasman fighter. fighter, so he's in the same crowd as Justice Tooney and Jolly Pataya.
Okay, got it.
How he let this happen, I don't know, because No Limit and Tasman fighters, from what I know, don't get along and stay out of each other's way. So I've been hearing that, yep, it's just happened. So I don't know what ramifications are going to happen because of it, and it's not my business, so I'm staying out of it. But yeah, I think this is going to be the fight of the night. But all the fights on the card, with the exception, of course, the unknowns. I mean, I'll just bring it up here. Sonny Knight, who's just signed with Glenn Jennings, is fighting Leben Stinger. I think I've seen him before. I'm pretty sure he's appeared on another No Limit card before. That should be an interesting fight. Geez, I can't pronounce this bloke's name. Hera Tuwela.
Yeah, that's not. I'm looking
that
right
is,
now. Trewell.
Yeah, that is Mundine's nephew.
Okay.
So that is Mundine's nephew. So Anthony Mundine's nephew. So that'll be one to look out for.
You think would Mundine be in attendance?
Most likely.
Okay.
If it's in Sydney, I dare say he'll probably show up.
Okay.
Can't guarantee it though. But I mean, considering that his nephew's fighting Mick Zerefa and Tommy Brown, both former opponents of Mundine, you think he'd make an appearance? I mean, why wouldn't he? So, I mean, I'm not saying that he will, but there's he probably will. Mia Solomon, Connie Brown, it's an interesting fight. She's not related to Sam. I thought it was Sam's girl, but she's not. Different person entirely. But yeah, the whole card, pretty much all fights except for Max McIntyre and LB Matthew. I have no idea who those two fellas are. The rest of them it's probably the most solid domestic card No Limit has done for this year, without doubt.
I mean, I get it, but you know, as we talked about before we got on the before we started the video, No Limit doesn't make the prices for the pay-per-views, but I don't think this is doing Nikita Tszyu justice by having his fights behind a paywall of $70, especially for a prospect. Because right now he's still a prospect. He's not in the top 15, so he's still a prospect. I don't get it. I don't get it. In his, what he's trying to do, he needs to be exposed to as many eyes as possible on Fox for you guys. And then when he starts building up to, like Tszyu did, when he starts building up to working his way through the top 10, top 12 of the division, then maybe start putting him on pay-per-view. But I just don't think this is helping him right now. Go ahead.
I'd have to agree, but here's the one thing that Tim had that Nikita doesn't. Tim was able to ride off the back, like quite literally, of Paul Gallen. Nikita doesn't have Paul Gallen to ride off the back off. And he won't ride off the back of his brother because they don't want him on the same card.
Yeah, because they're selling. They already got Nikita headlining his own pay-per-view, so why take that away?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he doesn't have the ability to piggyback off his brother anymore because his brother's fighting overseas.
Yeah.
So the only way, I don't agree with the $70 price tag, but I'm not going to say to No Limit they're ripping people off because No Limit doesn't set the price. Main Event does. So if anyone's angry about this, and there will be a lot of people who are pretty pissed off about the price, direct your anger at Main Event, the broadcaster, not No Limit. They do not set the price.
Yeah.
So for all those people saying, there'll be plenty of people out there that are saying, well, this is bullshit, it's not worth $70, and it's not, but make sure you direct your anger to the correct chat people, not poor old No Limit.
So before we talk about Mick Zerefa, I guess we'll wrap him up at the end. But let's talk about Nikita. Now, I've been watching his fights, and if I haven't watched his fights, I've definitely watching the clips for as long as his fights have been going. He went 10 rounds for the first time in his career back in April against Danilo Creedy, who we talked about earlier, shared the ring with Mick Zerefa. Mick Zerefa didn't look good against him either. But, he did get a shutout over Danilo Creedy. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm not seeing... it's hard for me to see him making it off domestic level. I'm not seeing anything. I saw a little bit of something in Tszyu where I was like, okay, maybe. But when it comes to Nikita, for example, he's been struggling a little bit. We talked about it. You can break it down, the fighters he's been struggling with, not to mention getting knocked down by Dylan Briggs. And didn't you say who almost beat him? Was it Ben Horn?
No, Ben Horn almost beat him. If you go back and watch that fight, particularly in the last round, Ben Horn was hitting him with some bombs in that last round. And if that round went an extra 30 seconds, I reckon Ben would have clipped him. I reckon Ben would have at least knocked him down, if not knocked him out. So go back and watch that fight. Jack Brubaker gave Nikita a lot of problems in their fight. Dylan Biggs knocked him down in their fight. But if it's similar to when Wade got knocked down by Wade knocked down Tim in their fight.
Yeah, it was
both Nikita and Tim both jumped up from those knockdowns and then proceeded to beat the shit out of their respective opponents, because Nikita got up and beat the shit out of Dylan Biggs for the rest of that fight until he got, I think it was a 5th round stoppage. And Tim jumped up, similar to the Terrell Goucher knockdown. A flash knockdown, jumped up and then beat the piss out of him for the rest of the fight. So yeah, I mean, flash knockdowns, you really can't count them. Yeah, okay, they got caught, they bounced straight back up. It's like when Virgil Ortiz got knocked down by Boachak the second time. Bounced straight back up and then started kicking the shit out of him. Yeah, I mean, it's always the way. The one thing I've learned in boxing, and people need to do this, is that you must watch the fight. I've said this several times. You can't go on BoxRec and look at it on paper, because it doesn't tell you the full story. You've got to watch the fights.
Yeah.
So in order to have a valid opinion, you must sit there and watch the footage, and that way you can go, hey, this actually happened. Because what BoxRec says, what actually happens, are two completely different things. So I strongly urge people to watch the fight. But having said that, I think this is a real 50-50, because I think I can't really say definitively that either one's going to win. I'm hearing people say that Koen's tailor-made for Nikita, and Nikita's just going to beat the piss out of him, and it's going to be an easy fight, which I don't think will be. I think it literally will probably go down to the wire. It'll be a 50-50 fight, because Koen's last couple of victories have not been, even the victories he had over Joel Camilleri and Wade Ryan could have went either way. He drew against Ben Mahoney, and he lost to Benjamin Hussein. So he's only won one of his last 3 fights. Yeah. He got a TKO victory over, what's old mate's name? Travis something?
Travis Druce, or Druce?
Yeah, Travis Druce, yeah. And that was on the Mark Sleeps, Sam Goodman card back in, I think it was. Yeah, so, I mean, Koen over his last few fights, one draw, one loss, and a knockout against, pretty much a low-level guy. And when Nikita's been, while he's been winning, but he's been struggling. So it's going to be a very, very entertaining fight. And I'm going 50-50. I don't know which way to go.
Yeah, I can say, like, let me point this out. Okay, so when it comes to Mazoudier, his first loss was back in 2019 against Luke Woods. That was a loss, a majority decision. His second loss was to Wade Ryan in a fight where he was knocked out in the last round. Now, according to the cards, he was also losing that fight. But then he would go on to avenge his loss against the only clear loss he's had, according to the resume. He would go on to avenge that Wade Ryan loss by beating him unanimous decision. And then Ben Mahoney, there was a split draw, could have went either way. And Benjamin Hussein, majority decision loss, could have went either way. So what I'm saying is, he seems to be hard to get out of there and hard to convincingly beat. So I wouldn't be shocked if the fight did go to distance and we see some crazy cards. And then with the way boxing has been going these days, I wouldn't be surprised, as you said, it's a 50-50 fight, and Mazoudier wins, but yet, Nikita gets the decision, if you get where I'm going. Because that's what I'm seeing from his resume, is that, this guy can grind it out.
Exactly. He's definitely a hard, solid fighter, Koen Mazoudier, because he definitely keeps coming forward. In his fights, you think that he's down, but he'll just keep coming. So both the Joel Camilleri fights were very competitive. Same with the Wade Ryan. I mean, Wade lost the second fight, but it was a hell of a fight. I think I remember it. It was on, what card was it? I can't remember, but I do remember seeing it. It was on probably one of the other No Limit cards. So as I said, it's going to be 50-50, because, both guys are around about the same amount of experience, 12-3, so that's 15 fights up against 9. So Mazoudier doesn't have that much more experience, but his level of competition is way stronger than what Nikita's fought. Easy. I mean, I'd probably put maybe Jack Brubaker as Nikita's most solid opponent. So, yeah, I wouldn't say Dylan Biggs was that, I'd probably say Jack Brubaker was his most solid opponent, then Dylan Biggs, then probably Ben Horn. So it's certainly a 50-50 fight. Now, I like these ones because you just don't know which way it's going to go. I can't definitely say that either guy's going to win.
And
I can't really say that either guy's going to lose either.
And the irony of a fight like this is here we are talking about this, and this fight is not making a blip in the boxing world globally. But let it be a bad decision next week, and either Mazoudier wins or Nikita gets a bad decision. It's going to be all over the boxing world. It's going to be the #1 boxing news next week. That's how it works.
Exactly.
It's going to be world news headlines. So, it's definitely a fight to look out for. And remember, it's supposed to be leading into Nikita, if he wins, breaking into the top 15. The top 15 of the top heavy 154-pound division, led by Terrence Crawford, Bakram Murtazaliev, Sebastian Vendor, Virgil Ortiz. So these are the guys he's trying to get. He probably will never see them, but these are the guys he's trying to, hopefully get a chance against in the future. So let's talk about Mick Zerefa. He's taking on Tommy Brown, and he's had a pretty bizarre career, and it's looking like right now he's talking shit, trying to build up a fight between him and Nikita Tszyu. He never got the Tszyu fight. Like that ship is sailed. Looks like that'll never possibly happen. Maybe when the fighters are both, as you said, on their way out the door. But tell me about this Tommy Brown fight and how you feel about, or what's the details of a possible Nikita and Mick Zerefa fight in the future.
Well, from what I've been told, what's being publicised, that Mick has a pre-fight deal with no limit, and the end game is Mick versus Nikita. So, pending everything goes well, on Wednesday night, Mick beats Tommy Brown, which he should, because if Mick can't beat Tommy Brown, he's done. I mean, Tommy Brown is 41 years old, is retired like 3 times. Okay, yeah, he's had a couple of fights in Thailand, but, so what? He's had 2 fights in Thailand. Big deal. And obviously Mick said, well, it wasn't the person that he wanted to fight because I don't know if I told you or not, but he has acquired the counsel or the assistance of Glenn Rushton. Okay. So Glenn Rushton will be helping Rafa in some way, shape or form with this fight. But I think it's just this is the opponent that they gave Mick. He has to get past Tommy in order to get the Nikita fight, which if all goes well, Nikita beats Koen, Mick beats Tommy, Mick fights Koen, and then eventually Mick fights Nikita. I think that's the way that they want it to go. So the only spanner in the works, if that Koen wins next week, then Mick would obviously fight Koen. So either way, but that's probably the plan. I mean, Tim versus Mick is never going to happen, and Mick's been very critical of Tim saying that he lost to a prospect in Sebastian Vendora, which is an insult to pretty much everyone, including his own intelligence. I don't think Mick has the presence or the ability to make such comments, considering he got friggin' sparked by the oldest champion in the world, mind you, who was sitting on the shelf for 2 years, and sparked him out inside of 2 rounds.
And a fighter that's not known to be a knockout artist in Iris Lady Lara.
Exactly. I would be advising Mick to shut the fuck up and keep Tim Tszyu's name out of his mouth, because I've said this many times, Mick Zerefa needs to be Tzયુ's biggest supporter, not retractor. Yeah. Every time he says something, he just looks foolish. I'm like, oh, God. So, but, yeah, it's all a build-up, and obviously to get Nikita versus Mick at some stage. So that's what's going to happen.
I would entertain the fight because, see, one thing I've learned about Mick is, for one, he's only 32 years old. Seems like he's been around forever. But you never know what guy is going to show up.
That's true.
You know, you never know which one's going to show up. He'll come in and just destroy and derail the career of Isaac Hartman by knocking him out in 2. I think he'll go the distance against Danilo Creedy. Then the very next fight get knocked out by, as you said, the oldest champion in boxing right now, Erislandy Lara. It's all over the place.
Exactly. The only thing that's consistent about Mick Zerefa is that he's inconsistent.
Yeah. Consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, exactly. Consistently inconsistent. And because I like Mick. Mick's a nice guy. He's appeared on the channel many times.
Yeah, the thing is, if you notice, he always got a soft spot with me in my heart because I'm always trying to root for him.
Exactly. I'm always trying to back him, but there's certain things when Mick says, you just go, oh, jeez, Mick, shut up. You're making yourself look the fool.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think he's got the presence of mind to make any criticism against Tszyu because he's never won a world title. Tim has, and now he's going for another one against Bakram Daliev. So
remind me again. I forgot. Remind me again. How did the Tszyu fight fall apart and then didn't get rescheduled again for Mick?
Oh, the Mick Zerefa one. Yeah, it was a COVID thing. Mick's team didn't want to go to. Yeah. Mick's team didn't want to go to Newcastle at the time because they thought that they would not be let back into Victoria because Newcastle's in New South Wales, which is a state north of Victoria. Right. At the time, this was July 2021. It was about 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. Restrictions were coming back. That if you travelled outside the state at the time, you would have to do a 2-week quarantine. That was not the case at the time of the fight. So if Team Zerefa didn't want to go because they were worried about risking 2 weeks in.
Yeah, it was some dodginess going on, and Mick ended up looking like the foolish one, his team.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he said that he got bad advice from them, which he did. I mean, if I was Mick, I just would have said, well, buggies, I'm going to go anyway. I'm not turning this opportunity down. So his team said, no, we probably can't get back into Victoria, which was not the case at the time.
Tim's team was pissed. I remember that. Yeah, I remember now. All right.
Yeah. And then they flew in, who's old mate they flew in at the second's notice? God, what was the young fella? Sparky. He ended up fighting Sparky, remember?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, he ended up fighting Sparky like a blown-up 140er, and Tim knocked him out in 3 rounds. Yeah, so, but I mean, Mick has said that, he got bad advice from the team at the time, and he said that, and that's exactly what happened. He should have just said, well, buggies, I'm going without you.
And now look, that fight, Tszyu is on a whole, levels above now. That fight's just going.
Exactly.
That's why when that fight's there, you got to take it.
Exactly. I've said on record, and I'll still say this. At the time, I believe Mick would have beat Tim. Not now. Tim will fucking destroy Mick now. But at the time, I believed that Mick would have got Tim, but not now. Not now.
Yeah, it's cooked. All right, closing thoughts?
Great card. Looking forward to it. Actually going to go up there. Definitely going to the press conference on Monday. Hopefully going to the fight on Wednesday. Looking forward to it. It's a solid domestic card. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to get the exposure that they need. The people rising, people rising up, like Jasmine Parr, certainly one, Colin Wallace and Jermaine Pepe is another one, and there's some prospects that are going to be worth a look. So I think it's going to be a very entertaining card, and I'm looking forward to it, without a doubt.
All right, and stay tuned for our next video where we're going to be talking about the Bertabiev versus Bivol card, where just not even 4 hours ago, the undercard was announced that features Jaya Pataya versus a Jack Massey, and a Sky Nicholson taking on a Raven Chapman. Who are these people? Well, we don't even know either. I do know who Jack Massey is a little bit. Raven Chapman, not so much. But basically, as you can see, underwhelming fights for both of these fighters. So we're going to be doing a preview for the card and those fights right there. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm TstreeT Controversy with Fight View 360. You can follow me on Twitter at TstreeT Controversy and Big J at Old Mate Big J. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Drop a like before you go.